Welcome to the Little House Handmaids YouTube channel. I am Charlotte and I will be showing you different tips here on this channel or different patterns and such that are coming up. If you want to get in contact with me, you can reach me at the email on the card, or you may sign up for my insider notes on the link below. It's a once a month email newsletter that you can contact me through. I also have a Ravelry page, which I will also link for my patterns down below. Thanks for joining us today. So, learn how to knit. This is a video just to go over basic supplies that you need before you start on your journey to learn to knit. First, you need some yarn. Now here I just have some cheap acrylic from my stash. I don't even know the name of this. I think it's probably a Red Heart yarn. I don't know. It has long ago lost its label, but it's various colors here. So you need some kind of yarn to start with. It can be fiber from whatever content you like. I do prefer now to move on to natural fibers, but I do have plenty of acrylic still in my stash. And for teaching in this for this video, I'm just going to use the acrylic yarn to show you what we're doing. So first of all, you need some yarn. And for a learner, you don't want really fine yarn. Now, yarns are graded with different numbers. Like if you go to buy yarn, you'll see a number on the side on the label. It's usually most common is a number 4 or a 5. A number 4 is a worsted weight yarn, and that is basically what you'll want to start with. Number 5 is a slightly bulky. 6 is a super bulky. A 3 is a light worsted or a DK weight. So, but for learning, I would suggest you buy a number 4 yarn to start with. The next thing you'll need is some knitting needles. Now, I have a set of aluminum straight needles here. You can see they have the ends to keep your stitches from coming off this end and the points at the other end. You'll need 2 to get started. Now, for a learner, I would suggest you don't buy a metal needle. I would suggest you buy a bamboo. Now, I don't have any. This is a double pointed needle, which has a point at both ends, just to show you what a wooden needle looks like. I don't have ones that have the caps on or regular straight needles because I don't use them anymore. But a wooden needle doesn't allow your stitches to slip quite as much as the metal or aluminum needles or the plastic needles. And so for learners, that I find is helpful sometimes in teaching, that they start with a pair of bamboo needles or wooden ones that hang on to the stitches a little better and they don't slide off. But it's completely possible to learn with a metal needle. If that's what you have, then use it. You just need to be a little more careful with it. I learned on metal needles and I thought it was terribly hard at first, but I eventually got the hang of it and I love them now. So that's basically what you will need to get started. A set of needles. Now, needles come in different sizes. I would suggest if you're starting, these are a size 6, I believe. Yes. So a 6 or 7 or an 8. Somewhere in that range is your average size, and it would be a good size to learn on. Anything that's really fine, like a littler number, you don't want to try and learn on something really tiny. You need something that you can easily see the stitches. Also, when choosing your yarn, choose something that's not too dark. Do not try to learn with a black yarn. It's too hard to see the stitches. You need to be able to see your stitches clearly to see what they are. Now, you can get one that's different colors, like this one is different colors in stripes or sections. Or you can get ones that have lots of spots and different things. It's fine as long as you can see your individual stitches. That is what you need for when you're learning. So those are the basics that you need to get started. Now, you will need a pair of scissors or some way to cut the yarn eventually. Any pair of scissors will work. I happen to have this is my favorite pair. It's a little pair that opens like this. And then I can fold it back up and store it in my knitting bag without it cutting things by accident. So I like that pair. But any needles will work, or any scissors will work. And you can use, whatever scissors you happen to have on hand. And if you don't have scissors, a table or a serrated edge knife will work, cut a yarn fine too. It's not quite as neat, but scissors, any kind of scissors will be fine. Another thing you might want to have is when you get done knitting a project, then you weave in the ends. And a lot of times you need a needle to do that. Now, a lot of yarn needles that they sell are these plastic ones that have this really big eye, and they work fine for some projects, especially ones that are made with big yarn or bulky yarn, because this needle can easily slip through the stitches and the tight spots to weave the ends in. However, I prefer a metal one. And you can see this is one of my favorites. It has a nice big eye that's easy to lace the yarn through and then to weave in the ends. But now sometimes you find ones that are smaller. And I did have a smaller one here. I think it maybe rolled somewhere. But you can buy, like this is my little set that I have from, I think I got it on Amazon. And it has lots of smaller ones in here. They're a little harder sometimes to lace the needle, the thread through the yarn through the needle, depending on how thick the yarn is. But they work quite nice with getting into tight spots. So you want a nice yarn needle to work with. Any one of those would do for a beginner. Now there are some other things that are nice to have. They're not necessary, especially to start, but they are nice to have on hand. And eventually I will do a video and show you how to fix some errors, like if you drop a stitch. And then it's good to have a crochet hook, a thin one like this. This is a size 3 millimeter, which I think is a D. I'm not sure. It just says 3 millimeter on it, but I'm kind of thinking that's a size D. I do crochet, but not a lot. I prefer to knit. So that a small crochet hook would be helpful, and maybe some stitch markers when you get to more complicated patterns. Now, a stitch marker goes on your needle like this, and you have stitches on this side and stitches on this side. So if you know that you need to do an increase at one place, then you'll have this to mark, hey, that's where I need to do my increase, or that's where I need to decrease. That's what they're used for, or they're used to know where you need to do a certain step on the pattern and to help you keep track of them. Now you can get some like this that are very cheap. Get them on Amazon, or sometimes they sell them at your big stores or whatever. They're plastic and they do break pretty quickly. They do work though for what you need sometimes, that you do have to watch that you don't break these. This kind of stitch marker is nice, and it works okay if your needle is big enough that it's not going to come out through this slot, or that it's not going to work out of the fabric that you're knitting. Sometimes with this, I like these better for crochet than for knitting. And then you have all your pretty little ones that you can get that have different little things on them. And they're just, some of these are ones that I've made for myself and I use. But yeah, a couple stitch markers for once you get a little more advanced. You don't need those necessarily to begin with, but those are just some of our tools that we'll need as we go along on these learning to knit videos. So first thing is to make sure you have some yarn and some needles. And then I will be posting videos on different days on showing you how to proceed with different things. If you are doing this as the birthday month knit along for February of 2025, just remember that your yarn, if you're going to submit for the prize at the end, the random prize drawing, it needs to have pink, red, or purple somewhere in it. It doesn't have to have all three, and it doesn't have to be a lot. Like, I'll show you eventually how to do stripes, and so you could just have one stripe of a color. That would be fine. But for now, you need some yarn and some needles and a pair of scissors. That will be your basic things to start with.